So now let's consider the more relevant and the more interesting case where we actually cannot observe who successfully completed the training. So we cannot see for a given individual how much effort was invested in the training, so we cannot know for the individual whether the training was finished successfully or not. But we do have two other things that we can observe. So the first one is we know who got invited and who not. So at the individual level I can single out the people that got an invitation and not, or who didn't get an invitation. And we know from previous studies that on average an invitation increases the probability of successfully completing the training by 0.4. So again, in the book by Engrist and Pischke, there is an equation which tells us how to identify the treatment effect, so the effect of training in this case. And what we need to do is to compare the expected earnings, so the mean earnings for the group that were invited to the training, so we set E is equal to 1, minus the expected earnings of the group who were not invited to the training. And we have to divide this by this correction term, which is the probability that the training was finished successfully, conditional on being invited, and the expectation that the training was finished successfully, conditional on not being invited. So we know from previous studies that this difference is 0.4, and we ask you to actually verify in the data frame that this is indeed close to 0.4 if you calculate it. But we're not going to do that here. So here we're going to apply this equation by Engrist and Pischke. So I'm going to calculate the difference between those expected earnings, and we're going to divide it by this correction term, which we know is 0.4. So basically what we're going to have is NP mean, so expected earnings in our data frame df prop. Now we're going to select, so we look at df prop invited. So there's going to be the expected earnings of everybody who was invited. So here we have earnings. So we take the mean of that. So we get expected earnings conditional on being invited minus, again we take the expected earnings, in this case df prop, and now we're going to condition on df prop invited is 0, and we're interested in earnings. I think the brackets all close correctly, so if we run this, indeed we get a result that's pretty close to 3. Yeah, so this is indeed a way to identify our effect tau, so the increase in expected earnings if you finish the training successfully. So if you like, you can do this also in a more sophisticated way. If you like, so you can use an IV estimation to get the same result. So you can define the results of the first stage as smf.ols, and we're going to regress trained on invited, where data is the data frame df prop, and we're going to fit this, and there's going to be results in the second stage. Result second stage is, so it's a similar regression, but now we're regressing earnings on invited. and data again equals df prop, and we're gonna fit this. Let's see whether yeah, so we don't get any errors, so presumably I didn't make any typos. And the way we can identify our treatment effect now is that we take results from the second stage from this. Oh, no. So I want to have the parameters, and I want to have the second parameter. So that's index 1. And we're going to divide it by results from the first stage. Again, parameters. And again, I want the second parameter. And if we run this, we also get the value very close to 3. So this is another way, slightly more sophisticated way, to see what the effect of training is, if we cannot directly observe who was successfully trained and who was not. Yeah, so if you're wondering what these expressions do exactly, then simply run them without this indexing to see what this params attribute actually gives you. But the main idea is here to see that you could also use an instrumental variable estimation to find a similar result, that the effect of training on earnings is about 3. And we can determine this effect without actually observing who successfully finished the training and who didn't.